Old people liking new music? Kick it! Hey, thanks for clicking on this video. Of course, thanks for all those new subscribers. We're going to talk about why old people hate new music. You know, it's a common theme of, like, you know, us old guys. I consider myself old. I was at a concert recently, and I was walking by these people, and I overheard this girl tell this guy, like, yeah, this band's pretty popular even with the old people. There's, like, people here in their, like, 40s and 50s. So let's just consider it old. So I'm old. And there's, you know, old people just don't like the new music. You know, it's too sucky, or for some it's too abrasive. Who knows what it is. Let's go back a little bit. When I was growing up, I always liked kind of the modern music, maybe music that was made within the last 10 years. The concept of time is an interesting thing anyway. Because let's say you're 20 years old. 10 years is half of your life. When you're 50 years old, 10 years is just 20% of your life. So a lot of the young people, you know, stuff will seem really old to them, even though it's just a few years old. And I get that. It was kind of like that when I was a kid. If stuff was like 3 or 4 years old, oh, that's kind of old. I want some new stuff. So you always seem to like the new stuff. But as you get older, of course, you want to, you know, if you're into music a lot, you want to kind of keep current and all that. But what's interesting is you watch these kids today wearing like a Nirvana shirt, which is something that happened 30 years ago. That would be like me wearing like a Paul Anka or a Frank Sinatra shirt in the 80s. You know, their hits were in the 50s. I wasn't feeling it. You know, I like the 70s, the 80s, maybe some 60s, but certainly I wasn't liking the 50s. But to show the power of rock and roll, which is a shame that rock really isn't on the charts these days. The kids today, a lot of them love, you know, Queen, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, AC/DC, Nirvana, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, bands that are from a few decades ago. Something that when I was growing up really wasn't a thing. You kind of like the bands of your time. So I tried to be hip, tried to be a hip cat, cool person. And I watched the current VMAs. You know, I don't know why MTV still has video award shows, because everyone watches videos now just on YouTube. I don't even know when MTV would even play videos. You know, there's no more like Total Request Live, there's no more 120 Minutes, there's no Headbangers Ball. You people growing up today, you missed out on the heyday of MTV that was just perfect. The pop music of the early 80s being shown on MTV, being blasted on the radio, you know, Michael Jackson, Prince, Flock of Seagulls, Men at Work. It's an amazing time. Shame y'all missed it. So I watched this, you know, 2022 MTV Awards, and I tell you, I want to like new artists, and MTV certainly went. Now, early MTV got criticized. You're just playing white people rock. And now it's you have to struggle to find a rock band being played within, you know, heavy rotation or being featured on the VMAs. It is all pop music, and the pop music of today is hip hop. Us old people call it rap. Now, and that's hard for me to really get into modern hip hop, because I was around when rap was kind of exploding. Of course, we heard about breakdancing and rap and all this stuff from the streets of New York, and it kind of went out after that. You know, I was there when like Run DMC was crossing over with their song with Aerosmith and Walk This Way and kind of hitting the charts with that. I was there when NWA was exploding. Public Enemy, still one of my favorite bands to this day. Public Enemy, saw them live a few years ago. It was an amazing show. It's probably like 10 years ago now. See, the concept of time is just, it's hard for me to like the new stuff, because I was there when it was edgy and political and new and fresh, and that happens every generation. I used to work UPS sorting packages, and this was around 90, 91, 92, 93. And I would go out and see bands. You know, I was into the local punk scene. I'd go see good rock bands, good heavy metal bands, good punk rock bands, and I'd come back to work. And there's this dude that I worked with, he was like older than me, and he was always like, yeah, well, I saw Hendrix live. And that was his thing. Like, no matter what I told, this band is awesome. Yeah, I saw Hendrix live. And then when I was first getting into the punk scene in 91, people were like, you know, these guys aren't the Dead Kennedys or Sex Pistols or early Ramones stuff, you know. So every generation is pumped about their music, and you're going to find older people that are just going to crap on it because they were there when the originators. Because there's really not a lot of new ways to play music left, on a lot of new music forms coming out. It's just kind of rehashing the old. So a lot of people, when you're there for the old and the original, it's hard to be impressed by the new stuff. So that's why I just don't have a love of hip hop these days, because I was there when it was coming up. Black Sheep was another band that I used to love way back then. Ice-T, Ice Cube, they're old dudes now, but it was good stuff. So Bad Bunny was one of the 2022. I was bored, thought it kind of sucked. The opening, Jack Harlow, thought he sucked. He had Fergie on. Never been into the Black Eyed Peas that much. Thought that sucks. It's just boring. It's not because I'm old and I'm not with it. I know what stuff is good and stuff is bad, and I don't like people. I feel nowadays people are forced. Like, this is good, right? Where before it was kind of like you had your own choice to choose. Now, because, you know, corporations are even more into the album labels and media, it's a big machine telling you what to like, what you shouldn't like. I just wasn't that impressed. The worst, though, and this was, I'm like, are these guys serious? I thought for sure it was a joke, but I'm like, no, it's not the Weird Al kind of joke. These guys really think this is entertaining. It just sucked. It was the J Balvin featuring Ryan Castro. It was the big computerized twerking women. And it was, I'm like, really? This really sucks. I mean, hey, twerk to your heart's content. But big computerized twerking people, I'm like, I think music is officially dead. I was waiting for the skies to open up and just flames to come down and four-headed dragons. I don't know what the end of the world looks like. I never really read Revelations. It'd be a good movie to make, though. So I was like, this just sucks. And they brought out Red Hot Chili Peppers. All those dudes are probably in their early 60s. And it's just their new album. I haven't liked the Chili Peppers in like 30 some years. So I just never really got in them. So I know that's like, hey, we're still showing the rock and roll. Here's this. And then they had Måneskin from Italy. And because the bass player who's usually plays topless with tape over her, untaped part fell out and there was boobies. They had to cut that. I've watched a few of their performances. I don't think they're the next big thing in rock and roll. They're really not that great. And really, I looked at the rock charts, the Billboard rock charts. And actually, right now is an interesting time because Billboard Top 10 is all one artist and one artist alone. That's Taylor Swift. I'm not the biggest Taylor Swift fan. I bought this CD because she had signed a few of them. So I bought, figure she's one of the hugest artists, is going to go into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, be one of the largest artists of all time. So I figured, it's kind of cool to get a CD of an autograph. All of her albums are usually bought by older people to the flip, unfortunately. But she does bring in a fan base from all ages and all types of people, which is how you become a big superstar like that. Taylor Swift owns the top 10 currently. But I was looking at the other songs, like from like 10 to 20, and a lot of it was like the pop, hip-hop stuff, and it just sucked. So I looked at the rock charts. Maybe I would find some good bands there that I would be able to rock and roll to, and it just was kind of the same thing. I was not that impressed. I Prevail has the number one song. I played it. It's kind of like the electric drums. Linkin Park was able to pull off that sound, but a lot of other bands, that new metal-y type sound of the early OOs, it just sucks. Other bands were Bush. They're way back from when. I just don't like them. Red Hot Chili Peppers, like I said, Ozzy Osbourne had the 8th most popular rock chart song. Ozzy, I love Ozzy. Love Black Sabbath. Love his early solo stuff. The last few Ozzy albums have just been kind of like, So yeah, there's really no new rock artists to get excited about. I'm talking about the ones that break the pop charts. Obviously, there's a million great rock and roll bands playing little shithole clubs, jamming out. That's what I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about the obscure groups. There are a lot out there. That's why I think a lot of us old people don't like the new music, is that we were there for something else, for more original, the originators of it all. I mean, obviously rock and roll was, from the 50s, early 50s, and, you had your Elvis and the Beatles. People from that era probably look at me like, you don't know rock and roll. Rock and roll is Elvis and the Beatles. Rock and roll isn't no Ozzy Osbourne, but... So, I get it, every generation. And I try to like new music. And I was looking at my record collection. I'm like, what new music do I like? Now, I had to go within like a band that formed kind of within the last 10 years or so. And like I said, for young people, 10 years is like, oh my God, that's an amazing amount of time. But as you get older, it's just a small percentage of your life. One of the bands that I had within the last 10 years, Bad Cop, Bad Cop. They're a good pop punk band, catchy punk rock. Punk rock is not the same. A lot of people think of like hardcore punk rock. A lot of punk rock is throwback to early rock and roll style and the like early pop rock style. So don't let the word punk scare some of you. Bad Cop, all female band from California. They are amazing. Another female fronted band, Bridge City Sinners from Oregon. They are just formed within the last few years. They're great kind of folk pirate rock band. I talked about them in other videos on this. And a big reason why I wanted to do this video is for anyone out there that's old like me and looking for what kind of new band can I like. Doesn't all new music suck? I tell you, this band, I was watching, I think, older Smashing Pumpkins video on YouTube, and I started to do other stuff, and YouTube just kept playing, and it played this song, and I was like, what the hell is that? And I looked, and I haven't been this blown away by a new band in years, and I looked them up, had to wait like 6 months till they came around town, saw them just recently at the Vic Theater in Chicago, one of my favorite places to see a band. It only holds like 1,400 people or so. This band will play stadiums overseas, but when they come to America, they're still playing the clubs to about like 1,000 people or so, which is fine. I'm sure not fine with the band. They probably like to play in front of huge audience all around the world, but I'm cool with the smaller places because the sound is usually cooler, the feel is usually cooler. And anyway, I'm talking about the band Wolf Alice from England, and they are a female-fronted band. But all these females are killing it, man. I remember back in the day, you just had, what, Chrissy Hyde, Pat Benatar, you just had a handful, Stevie Nicks, and people are like, man, there should be more women in rock and roll. Now there's tons. There's tons. So Wolf Alice. Ellie is a singer. Amazing voice. The band is great. I compare it because my friend was asking me, why do you like that band? Like, what do you sound like? I said, like, take X-Ray Spex and take Smashing Pumpkins and put them in a blender. You old people know X-Ray Spex. And I'll tell you, it is just perfect. Kind of shoegazing, power pop, alternative rock and roll. Throwback sound, but yet sounds modern and current. And I'll tell you, I had an amazing time. The songs take you on a journey. That's what you miss from a lot of modern music, I think, is it's too programmed. It's too, I don't want to keep saying the word corporate, but it just sounds like too controlled. This band isn't afraid to experiment a little bit. They climb up the charts, like I said, overseas. Unfortunately, in America, they're just not breaking it through as big as they should be. But Wolf Alice, amazing band. They have 3 albums. This album just came out last year, Blue Weekend. I can't wait to get them all on vinyl. I have them all on CD, but I'll tell you, when you find a new band and you get excited about that, is such a good feeling. I want to encourage all you to support as much music as you can. Don't worry about what old people like and what old people don't like. Don't worry about what new kids are making fun of you. Just listen to music and have fun. But of course, if you come to this channel, you're going to get great opinions because I have the best choice of music of any human alive. I got the best taste. Yeah, I love Taco Bell, so of course my taste, where's my Taco Bell sweatshirt? Can't really see it, but of course my taste is fine. So anyway, thanks for hearing me ramble. Thanks for watching.